Here is a quick look at the history of the bicycle, some successful and failed technology. Up there is one of the original bikes that didn't have any pedals, and then people figured out how to put cranks and pedals directly on the front wheel. These are tricycles, meaning you didn't have to learn how to balance. And then they figured out that a bigger wheel goes faster, so all the cool guys had giant wheels that they had to pedal and somehow had to figure out how to climb up on top of. Here's a couple more vintage tricycles. Looks like almost a vintage wheelchair there as well. So on those, you get a traditional bench seat and you still pedal it, and the pedal turns the rear axle. And then the bicycle's starting to look more bicycle-y there when they invented the front gear and the rear gear. And then you could have gear ratios and really control the speed and figure out how fast you want to go. And then this guy came up with the big wheel and levers to make the big wheel go. So using these kind of levers to get you away from the wheel and still be able to pedal it means that the war of the big wheel arms race would never end until the person would have the biggest wheel in the history of the world. I don't know how you would get off or stop. I guess you wouldn't. You would just keep cranking. And then we get to modern times. So this bike is pretty modern. And you can still see a lot of innovation, like the way the frames are, the way the seat post is configured, maybe to have a little shock absorption in it, and the weird front fork on this one has a little spring to it. But they hadn't figured out shiftable gears yet, so another way to make your bike go faster is to add more people. This one, the guy in the back does all the work, but down below, you can see there is a bicycle built for two where everybody cranks along and you go double fast with that. I don't think you literally go double fast, but you definitely go faster than your regular person. There's a classic Dutch bike. That is the Oma Fiets style, the grandma bike style of Holland. There's the old banana board. I don't know if you had one of these in the 70s. We had these in the 70s when I was a kid. And there you go. And if you add as many people as you have in your family to your bike, then you're super fast. And now it's starting to look more modern. That one actually has a shaft drive. So they were experimenting with different drives. I think we're still stuck with chains for the foreseeable future, though belts are looking pretty good now. This one even had rear suspension, so that was amazing for as old as it is. It was made in 1900. So in 1900, you had a shaft drive rear suspension bike. This one has kind of Stairmaster pedals on it, so you can push and it pulls a rope. This is a paratrooper bike, which folds in half, kind of like my folding bike that I take with me in the Prius when I'm on vacation. Fits in the back. So that one you would put on your back or front and parachute with it into the enemy territory. And speaking of military, here are some military bicycles that are kitted up for use during wartime with all kinds of weaponry and places for food. There's a Red Cross bike for the medics, and then another beach cruiser type bike that you could use to cruise around the base. This one was Kilroy's personal bike. And for the unicycle fans, there are two unicycles. Two unicycles do not make a bicycle. And as we get into the 1950s, it's all about style and looks. And you still just got one gear, but at least the American bikes were these big fat cruisers that look cool. Aren't necessarily fast, but you're cruising. And they're also comfortable because of the suspension of the tires. And here you go, a two-wheel drive option. So this one, both wheels are driven by your feet, and there's a drive shaft that goes to the front wheel. This one, you drive the front wheels with your arms by spinning cranks, and your rear wheels are driven by your feet. And then here's the progression of some of my favorite classic bikes. I was always partial to the 1970s Schwinn style. You get the chrome fenders and the 3-speed, and not just the Schwinn cruiser frame, but some of the Centurion and bikes of that nature, like a gentleman's bicycle. And then there's your racer, your road racer. So now we're finally getting into aerodynamics and shiftable gears. And hey, how fast can we go? And can we also climb up mountains? And that pretty much is where we are today until when we get to the end of the exhibit, which is you will own nothing and you will like it and you will rent your bike. And in the modern era, we've got to talk about e-bikes. That's the current trend. A lot more fun than bikes, a lot less exercise, and people are loving them right now. But whether you're renting a city bike or you've got your own bike or you've got a big wheel or tricycle or whatever you're riding, however old or young you are, it's always fun to get out on a bike ride. So get out there and ride.